are living. Oh, there we go. We cut her with your coffee as we went live. I'm just waiting for my side. So how about you introduce yourself and I'll get the rest done.
Hi, my name is Anya.
Just waiting for my
I'm a
side.
traveling gypsy.
The terrible gypsy. Absolutely. Perfect. Okay, it came up. So now I just gotta just refresh here and then we're way to go. Otherwise I can't see the comments. I wish Zoom was better at that. But... Okay. So we got Anya, the traveling gypsy, and she's having her adventures in Never Never Land.
This is not Never Neverland, it's some other place, but
Isn't it
yeah,
crazy sometimes? Isn't that what Never 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 Land is?
that's true. Yeah,
That's our new Never 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 Land.
yeah.
So the prevailing energy. Oh, I'm Paul Hanrider, and I'm from Calgary, and I feel like a traveling gypsy too, but I'm going nowhere fast.
Internally, an internal
Internally,
one.
yes, exactly.
We're going everywhere internally.
Absolutely. Um, what's the temperature like up there? Is it really hot?
Today it's 83,
Okay, that's not too bad.
but
That's comfortable.
it should be like thunderstorming all day.
Oh, well, that cools things off quick, but it gets muggy as hell too. So, well, we're like US 95, which is like 35 Celsius, which is very unseasonable for here. I can't be in the house anywhere above the basement, or else I just get heat prostration after a while. It's no fun. So I don't know what's with all that. We get that like 3 times a year, and we're first week of last week of June, and it's been a whole week of it, which is very unseasonable. So breaking records all over the place. In Vancouver, it was like 46, I heard, in some places, which is 110 or whatever. Uh, so yeah, there's something going on in the world that's forcing us to look deep and stuck in our home and hide. So today is Canada Day in Canada. It's July 1st. Where I'm at in Calgary in Alberta, our provincial leader basically says this is the first day of the reopening plan and we're not supposed to wear masks and all this stuff. And then the local mayor decided that he's different and he gets his own choice, which makes no sense. Like the guy above him is saying yes and he's saying no. So he wants to be some kind of savior or whatever. So he's going to delay it by 5 days. Um, I personally disagree, and I intend to walk around with no mask because any police officer that's going to enforce a lower level is fucked. But anyway, um, so we entitled this "Are We Wandering Around Blind?" Because I feel it every freaking day. What the hell are we doing? What are we waiting for? What's the next step? How come I feel like I'm in limbo all day long? How come I'm so exhausted? How come all this shit keeps showing up from my past that's all over again and over again? Are you feeling the same? Oh, sorry, cut you mid comment.
Um, I feel, I mean, I do feel like I'm just wandering. I'm just feeling like I'm wandering and I have no plan. I'm just existing. That's it.
Does it feel bad though?
No, it feels great. It's just, like to an external source like my parents or a friend or whatever, it's like this girl's lost.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm
Yeah, what the
not.
hell's
Like I
wrong with
know
you?
myself.
Yeah. So you're looking at how people are seeing you from the external, and it doesn't compute anymore.
Like like I have only a duffel bag and no place to stay and on my laptop. Those are the only possessions I have. But like my soul is so happy.
Mm-hmm. So did you want to be what you used to be that they judged you as good before?
No.
Were they really hollow, those things?
Yeah.
Like having a place, having a job, making money, were
Yeah.
all status symbols that made you, well, we talked about your
Stable.
parents yesterday. Your parents are feeling that you're safe, so they don't have to look after you or worry about you anymore because you have all these things that they judge are
Right.
giving you safety, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, no, I'm not fucking eating food like normal. Like, I don't have a job. I don't have a place to stay, but it's all good.
Mhm, mhm. What would you like in to have different from what you have now then?
I'm cool. It's fine how it is. I mean, because I think like it teaches so much gratitude.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, but I mean, yeah, it would be nice to just have one place so I don't have to move around so I can start painting again.
Hmm. And what
Some,
would tell you that you couldn't? What one thing in your life tells you that you can't have those things right now?
I can, I just don't know.
No, but it's money, right?
Right, 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 right.
I gotta have the cash, and I gotta go into my savings, and I gotta pay for rent, and I gotta pay the bills, and have cable, and blah 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 blah, for
Hmm.
you to have that structure of safety and
Right.
stability enough that you can buy a paintbrush and an easel and some paints, right?
Hmm.
So, but that's a control structure, which we're starting to learn.
Hmm.
And it's programmed that the only way you can get it is by having a job and putting up with the bullshit of a manager and all the structure, which is just slavery, right?
Yes.
And some people rebel against this and say that's not slavery, that's just us doing the right thing or whatever. Well, who taught you that? Why do you feel that? Do you really want to dig underneath and feel that the minute you have a job, then you got to pay taxes, and the minute you have that, then you got to get up at a certain time, you got to go to a certain place, and you got to deal with the shit and deal with customers and deal customers always right and all these things? Those things don't feel good inside me anymore. That's a form of slavery where I have no choice anymore. And to be able to feel safe and to be able to feel like I'm wanted in this world, I have to be something.
Yes.
So where do I ever get a chance to be myself? Who's Anya really, right? Is somebody that just a beautiful soul that likes to help people and wants to talk to them and serve them and walk around in the world and not have and be balanced by having a place to live.
Yeah.
And it's not about cash exchange now, it's about energetic exchange. Hey, we're doing these lives, we're talking to people, we're giving healing sessions, all that kind of stuff, because we're giving back.
Yeah. Because like even like with the whole coaching thing that's taken off, like
Mhm.
that's cool and all, but there's still like a program like, oh, well, you better, have a rate and know what your service offering is, and you got to get clients and all this other pressure that comes into just wanting to do what you want to do.
Mhm. And speaking from my own experience and when I tried to coach and all that kind of stuff, I find that most coaches are teaching from their wound.
Mm.
So it's a hole where they don't feel completely happy with, but they're actually working with other people and putting their wound outside themselves so that they can heal themselves. So now
Hmm.
you mentioned this earlier when we were talking before we went live, but we're helping facets of ourselves outside of ourselves by
Yeah.
doing this stuff. And it
Yeah.
gives us as much as it gives them.
Yes.
And there's an inherent balance that goes with that. But and I'd conjecture that most coaches that listen to that are really triggered and angry because I've shown the truth onto it. And they're trying their best to improve themselves. They're trying their best to shine into the world. But it's kind of fucked up when you're charging a lot of money to teach about something that you're not really an expert on yet, anyways, because you're teaching from that spot inside of you. And
Hmm.
that's the whole premise that I have trouble with of being a healer in that way, because we're all healers, we're all dealing with the same kind of shit all the time. And if money didn't matter, you'd be doing it anyways, and it wouldn't be about your value or the number that you charge or how busy you are or any of that kind of stuff. It would be about just this gratitude of giving and then receiving in other ways. In shamanic times, the healer guy lived on the outside of the village and everybody bought chickens and food and stuff like that. And they devoted their full time to giving people guidance and
Yeah.
seeing through the veils and all that kind of stuff. Where did that person go to? It's not the priest. It's not there isn't no equivalent anymore.
Yeah, like imagine if everyone was doing what their actual calling was, whether it be, like working with animals in some type of way, or doing what we do, or tending a garden, or, inventing new technology. Like, that would be crazy.
You want to know something? I love to ask people that I'm first meeting or they're messaging me on Facebook or whatever, and I say, "What's your passion?" And a lot of people give this like cracked up, "Oh, I just like to talk to people and blah 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 blah," but they really haven't explored what their passion is.
Mm.
What makes them feel, and it's almost the sexual visceral experience of being fully in your passion. It's like painting, and I don't know. I know some people paint naked and they're just like guttural music and they're
Yeah.
slapping paint on canvas. That's a visceral, sexual, embodied, root-based experience of expression.
And, a lot of feminine energy in painting. And like I try to bring that into my own work sometimes, like how I paint, like having that like sensual approach to it. I can hear
And
you.
that's magic.
Yeah. But let's go back to the what was the topic?
Are we walking around blind?
Are we walking around blind? Yeah, we
So,
are.
so do you want, because here an example of it is what you just said. Something happened this morning and you dealt with it in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
We shifted schedules and stuff, which is all fine, but do you want to talk about that and how that felt for you?
I
You don't
can
have
on
to.
a different episode.
Okay. But something showed up where you assisted someone.
Yes.
It's all good. And
Yeah.
it was in the moment. It wasn't like planned and here, let's have a session or whatever. It was
Right.
like, this shit shows up in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're called to do that all the time. I really think, and I'll make make some healer people mad, but I really think in the moment that person's calling out for an assistance.
Yeah.
And it's not about, oh, let's book a session, go on my website. And it just feels so icky to me
Yeah.
because you lose the moment of the energy and then there's a
Mm-hmm.
value. And what I really want to put out there that most people don't understand, most of us are fucked up in our self-value, what our self-worth is. It's been trained from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And the minute you put a monetary value on, it
Yes.
creates this huge push-pull pile of bullshit that does not aid healing in any way, shape, or form. Let's do some examples. So if you charge too little, the person on the other end is going to feel there isn't really value. You're not giving a good value to yourself, so you mustn't be a good healer. So all of a sudden, it'll feel smaller.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when it's free, it feels like it's worthless. And how many times have you done something for someone that's really powerful and they haven't even heard it because you didn't give it any value? Well, value can be an energetic value and passion and excitement that, holy fuck, this is a real truth that I'm giving. And maybe we're not giving enough value to this. I'm just feeling it right now. We're giving from love, but what we share in this is so deeply awakened, conscious awareness that a lot of people we're not valuing it. It's huge. It's gold. I said that to you this morning.
Mm-hmm.
I've collected it all in a YouTube now. There's a new perspectives on reality. It's on my Facebook page, and Anya will get it on hers too. There's gold in there by us just sharing, and it wasn't like, hey, come to our website and give us money and donate and all this kind of stuff. No, just freely given because this is needed.
Yeah.
And so now we start looking at the other perspective. It's like, okay, if you weren't good enough value, now are you going to give your all if you're feeling undervalued or you're feeling that this person's not respecting you or whatever? And there's this whole level of other push-pull shit that takes away and may make it not even possible by putting money around it. Oh, I got to have a session. Oh, you got to keep paying me.
Or like, I gotta find more clients. So now it's like
Yeah.
now you're treating it as a client, which is cool. It's fine, but it's like it takes away a little
Well,
bit.
and how does a client become completely arm's length then? You can't be a friend with that person because you're a client, and you can't talk to them because there's a whole bunch of control and power, all this shit about funnels and building mailing lists and
Yeah,
sending content to people and showing your value.
I
It
can't do
feels so
that.
fucked to me.
Yeah, like I
It's so
can't.
3D and so ugly and so messy, taught by people that are just trying to sell their tools and oh, I'm better than you. I figured out the funnel method. And I can't stand receiving blither emails from people that are trying to get clients and now they got a mailing list and you can't even listen to their content without giving your email address and being almost violated.
Yeah,
So
and like it, you hear like the term like spiritual entrepreneur and starting your spiritual business.
bullshit. The people will show up when you are fucking ready.
Yeah,
No matter how many websites you have, how many fucking email people you have, they will show up when you're ready.
yeah.
And they show up in my life when I'm ready. And sometimes I'm not ready, and sometimes I am ready. And it has nothing to do with proving I'm successful because my calendar is booked full. I had someone that I thought could be helpful to me that wanted 5,000 US dollars to coach me. And it's okay. Maybe that's what, but it felt really off. She did not feel that she was that, but it was like she was coached into that number, and it was like, no, you
Mm.
just made it physically impossible. I've never spent that much money with anyone. And then it's like, oh, well, you're not committed to yourself if you're not willing to pay this money.
Sure.
And then it's just like, oh, it's all messed up. It's all mangled. And yes, there's people that have made 5,000. They're going to sit and look at me and say, oh, well, you're not worthy of that. And obviously, whatever. How should the most spiritual people and the people that are doing the deepest work are the people that don't have money right now, aren't living in a house, don't have that security, don't have any of this kind of stuff? So you're saying they're physically unworthy because they've detached from money and all these things? And I'm going to tell you, what the fuck good is a schedule that is 9 to 5 full of helping people and you got a lot of cash in your account that you can't even fucking use? Excuse my French.
Yeah.
How
Um,
balanced is that?
I met up with an old guy friend the other night, and he runs one of the most successful showrooms for celebrity stylists to pull clothes. So it's like a rental for stylists to pull clothes for like photo shoots for celebrities and stuff. And he can make like $10,000 in one day. And he told me he's fucking miserable.
And so,
He's so unhappy and like his heart is so closed off. He's like become, I met him a few years ago, and even from that point to now, like he's become like so closed off and so shrewd and so like disconnected from his heart, and just like so, and he just kept telling me, he's like, every day I wake up and I'm just not happy. Like I have everything that someone perceives as cool, but I don't give a fuck.
been there, done that, right? You're a slave to the system you designed. That clients phone up and they're really pushy and if you want 10 grand, you better get this over here right now. And then you're chasing halfway across town and you miss the time with your kids or whatever, just because people own you because you're exchanging money.
Yeah.
And so what happened? Where did the corruption happen? Where did the loss happen? Somewhere along the way, you made the money more important about it, right? You made too much value in yourself, but you have to be physically involved. That's why I call it busyness. we are in the chasing of pleasing others.
Yeah,
Believe.
I mean, like I look around and like I have, friends and stuff who just stay productive for the sake of being productive, because if they're not, then their worth is going to be skewed. And like, and I look at that, and then I look at the comparison of me, where I'm just enjoying just doing what I want to do, rather than just enrolling in a program just for the sake of enrolling in a program to stay busy.
Are you lazy? Do you think lazy?
No,
Just
like
sit
I've
there and
worked
smoke
hard my
weed
whole
and
life.
stare at the TV all day long?
No, I mean, I love smoking weed, but I've worked hard my whole life, like I was a student, always pulling off good grades and shit, and, working jobs and putting so much effort into these jobs.
Excuse me. But is it actually, do you need to work? And so really when you're having this time and you're going to friends' places and that kind of stuff, are you working? But you're doing some inner work of reflecting
Yeah,
and seeing what's important and starting to make choices from what's important to you rather than
yeah,
to please.
yes, yes,
That's the hardest fucking work I've ever done in my life,
yes.
is to choose me and to start to be aware that it's not about pleasing, it's not about serving others in the way that the world has taught us. Serving
Mm-hmm.
others is serving ourselves first. And like what you said showed up today, it's like being of service is standing in the moment, holding the energy,
Yes,
having a discussion, holding space, going
listening.
deeper so that something beautiful can emerge.
And it did. It was so beautiful. Like I wanted to cry. But I lost my
Did
train
you
of
have to
thought.
do it? You just wanted to do it because that's who you
It
are.
felt called, yeah.
Absolutely. So that's not work, that's being of service.
It's just being yourself.
Mhm.
Um,
Being yourself for yourself. And you said that you even had reflections of your work in their work.
yeah, always. Like when you start talking to someone about those truths, you kind of start reminding yourself about those truths. Like, oh shit, you know what? Let me talk to God later. I need to connect with that a little bit more myself. Like I need to actually, you know what? I need to remind myself I need to breathe a little more and get a little bit more in the moment
Every time. Yeah.
myself, that always brings you back to the moment.
There's always a reflection for you in
Yes.
everything.
Yes.
And when I get out of myself, the healing work that I do now isn't translating my awareness of the world. I step out of my body and a bunch of shit pours out of me that's for the highest good of the other person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a hollow bone, like a straw,
Mm-hmm.
where the words come out and I'm looking at it and I'm just kind of back here watching the whole exchange. And it's like, yeah, exactly like you said. Oh, some of that applies to me. And yeah, I should really do that. And it was stuff that was in my shadow that I couldn't see, but they couldn't see without a reflection from me.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna say, like, what I've noticed is I think like the energy is the highest form of currency, because like if I'm vibrating at a high level, and like people come in contact with that, they're gonna be like, I've already seen it, like come being interacting with people here, like they're just like, holy shit, like what is this?
mhm,
How do I get more of this? Like please stay in my life. And like it works on itself,
mhm.
and it's all just me being myself.
And shining and being of service and doing things that you wouldn't normally do because you were too busy to be really aware of the energy and what was going on.
Yeah.
That's the distraction of the whole life that we have.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm going to conjecture. I would love people to do an audit of their life. How much of their life, just sit down, close your eyes, how much of your life is actually for you? When you wake up out of bed in the morning, do you have that possibility to stay there and rest and sleep in a little longer because your body feels tired? Or do you have to chase and get in the shower and brush the teeth and do your hair and put on
Check
the nice
emails.
clothes, get food, get the kids fed, race off to work, maybe get a little bit late, serve other people all day long,
Mm-hmm.
maybe get a half an hour for lunch. How much of that lunch is even for you, or do you work through your lunch because you feel like you owe the
It's
boss, or
fucking disgusting.
and you get to 5 o'clock and then you chase through the
It's
busiest
six
time of
o'clock.
traffic and spend an hour and a half getting home or whatever, and then you shove food into your mouth,
Do it again.
and
Watch a little
well, you
TV.
might watch TV and numb yourself out or listen to the news or
Have
whatever.
a
And then
drink.
when did you think about anything in your world? When did you not have a to-do list that was as long as your arm and you never really had time to look at yourself?
Yeah. I mean,
That,
and you don't want to. Like
yeah.
you're too afraid to because you're gonna realize, oh, like all of this shit is fucked up.
Well, and the trauma and the frustration all just builds up. So then you deaden yourself with marijuana or alcohol or just porn, distractions,
Friends.
masturbation, running, jogging, keeping your body in shape or whatever. Some of those might be meditation, but are you actually doing work on yourself, or are you just getting so you can at least be a little bit calm and not be stressed out?
Yeah.
And then when are you putting that time? Okay, I'm going to go on a vacation and I'm going to spend a week in Florida or whatever. Well, then you have this pull to I got to explore and sightsee, and how many people do that instead of sitting beside the pool and breathing and believing and being yourself?
In the moment.
How much time do people spend sitting physically talking to themselves, having dialogue inside, figuring out what's really important? I'm going to estimate that number is really, really small. Now, look at Anya and I. We have jobs in some regards, or had them in the past, and we're serving in this way. Money doesn't show up every fucking day. I'm a consultant of IT and all this kind of stuff. And when I need to do my work, everything slows right down, and I'm forced inward. And it's a gift after a while, but I sit sometimes and it's like, holy fuck, I'm not contributing. What if my kids can't be fed? And what if my debt's too high? Which is all distraction. And when you get in that space, you're really not aware and you're really unhappy and you're feeling stressed. So stress is just a choice. And as we dig deeper, we find out that our whole reality is engineered for us so that we just keep busy and never get time for ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm finishing up reading 1984, but that's what it's all about is,
Same
you
idea.
stay busy.
Yeah, they have screens with words on them that say what you're supposed to think and what you're supposed to do, and they have special police that come and take
Thought
away and
police.
punish you and all that kind of stuff. It was so engineered, and this was written a long time ago by.
Yeah.
And if you go dig underneath, Aldous Huxley, I think, is the one that wrote it, isn't it?
No, George Orwell.
Or George? There we go. Sorry,
Brave
but
New
Aldous
World was
Huxley does another one, right?
Brave New World.
Yeah. Both of those guys were involved in some of the movement that's part of the Great Reset and all that kind of stuff. They were back in the thinker time of all that kind of stuff, and it was created. Actually, I think even 1984 was like a channeled work of the future, if I recall hearing that. But it was a reflection of what's to come.
Yeah.
But we have, how many people feel that we're way overprotected? It's just like a parent state of our government, our leaders, our police officers, our whatever. They have engineered it down to so simple, like here's exactly how you have to exist so that everybody's safe. But it's
Yeah.
actually for them to be safe and them to have power and them to have to control, because the minute people think, then it creates waves in their pool.
Well, that's what's happening now. It's like, oh, this is all for your safety. 6 feet of distance, social distancing, wearing a mask, getting a vaccine. Like it's all for your safety and the safety of others.
And projected to the point that somebody else has to be exactly the same, or else you're not keeping them safe. If I vaccinate myself, I'm protecting myself. So why should it matter what I'm now in my own little bubble over here, can't possibly get sick. So why does it matter that you don't? Well, it matters because now you're not compliant and you're not being forced to do this thing that you're not really sure about. So you're the aberration, and you're making me question my reality.
Yeah.
That's our role, is to question our reality. What's truth? Constantly audit the truth. Why am I doing things? What's your why? What's the thing that's underneath?
Yeah.
So let's go back to the
Yeah.
blindness, because the blindness is us bumping around. I'd say there's veils everywhere. It's just like sheets that are hanging from the ceiling, and you have no idea what's beside, what people are doing to each other, why the reason is there, why the lights and the sun and the shines and all this kind of stuff. We're just walking around like this, and every once in a while the sheet blows around and we see a glimpse of what we think. Especially now with COVID, everybody's so separated they can't even share reality. They can't talk and have a discussion. And that's engineered for a reason, right? If too many
Yes.
people got together and say, hey, here's the truth, and this is what I found, and here's the website, and the less and less that spreads, the more and more a lie can be propagated.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I think that's why there's so much of an outpour of information, so that you can't even comprehend what's true or not true because there's so much of it at the same time.
So in Canada, our wonderful government engineered and added a whole bunch of social media control in a bill called C10. It just happened here a few days ago, and it was all done at midnight when nobody was there, and just pushed through. But it basically regulates what we can say on social media now,
Whoa. How
which
does
is
that work?
fucking way past Orwellian 1984 kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's only just started, but I'm sure they got a plan. And it's like, oh, you can't share truth. You can't talk about COVID. It's already there to some level. Anything that even mentions COVID, do you notice on Facebook? It's got that little tag at the bottom. Here's the COVID information says. And then anything that says vaccine, it automatically gets this thing. It's they're fully tested and stuff. It's a pile of bullshit. If you dig anywhere, a vaccine takes 4 years, and it didn't. It wasn't fully tested. Anyways, same exact principle. Taking your stuff off of social media, YouTube, closing your page down because you're giving too much truth that might make people think.
Mm-hmm.
So we're blinded, firstly, because that's what control wants, is nobody to see each other, nobody to see underneath the truth.
Mm-hmm.
We're also blinded because our reality is so programmed, we can't see really even what we want. Like, do you know what you want? I don't want to be in this world where everything is engineered away of what I want, my exploration. There's rules and religion and what's a sin and what's not, and I'm not allowed to explore or build abilities to deal with people that might be edgy and explore that without somebody else judging me from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
So we're wandering around with a whole bunch of rules that say this isn't possible, this isn't possible, this isn't possible, this isn't possible, until you're just like in this cage, and that's the people that are in their 40s and 50s and on the treadmill. I went through that whole process. I was a successful engineer earning $165,000 a year, everything great, and I got to the top and I was there, and it was just a fucking treadmill full of death and taxes. That's literally, it's like death is coming and I'm 50 and I only got till 65 and I better have my retirement income and blah, 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 blah. And I just had to pop because it was like, something's wrong here. And that's the blindness. It's like, okay, why am I going to chase marriage? Why am I going to chase kids? Why am I everybody else is doing it. Is that your why? Everybody says that's great. Well, how many people do you know are having divorces? How many people are having bankruptcies? How many people, their kids are just like little zombies? They go to soccer practice and play video games, and you're putting them in stuff that they don't even want to go to. Oh, it's like, oh, you need ballet. Oh, you got to be hockey because I want you to be a hockey star or whatever. It's crazy.
It's funny you bring that up because my nephew just got enrolled into preschool, and I guess he's like really stressed to be in that environment. He like doesn't want to socialize with the other kids. He just sits on one of the laps of the preschool teachers or whatever, and like he's just really stressed out in that environment.
Mhm.
But like my sister is gonna still put him there because that's what's normal.
So your sister, does she work?
Yeah.
Okay, so she needs to have daycare or
Or
some.
I mean, there's alternative. You can just get a nanny. Like that's what he was doing before this preschool thing.
Okay, so what does preschool give you as a child?
Socializing,
Okay, yeah, socialization, people skills, all
germs.
that kind of stuff. But it's also conformance, compliance. Sit here, do this. Don't walk around. Don't be noisy. Don't. That's the first level
Yeah.
of cowing a person. And our
Yeah.
whole school system is like that. It's like when you look at school system, you have to show up at X time, you have to do your homework, you have to listen to the teacher, whether you agree with them or not. You have to sit in the classroom and be quiet, stay in your chair, not
Yeah.
move, hold your energy, which is
Yeah.
completely foreign to playing around and bouncing all over the place and having fun.
Yeah. And so like I just think about it and I can already see like the destruction, I guess, of this little kid's soul, like pretty much happening because instead of listening to him and his body, like obviously if he's stressed the fuck out, you gotta do something about it. Like don't
Mm-hmm.
think that it's gonna get better.
Mm-hmm. So take a step back. Did the same thing not happen since he was born? He was born to a mother and father, and his mother had a certain structure and traumas, and they came from your mother and his dad, and oh, he got a religion and play dates with other people, and don't run into the street, don't touch that toy, getting spanked, getting told all these things. To exist and coexist in this society, we have to take that on. And
Yeah.
those are some choices that we really don't have a choice in, whether we like it or not. If you didn't go to the school system, would some child services person come and take that child away from you because they know better? And if that child doesn't get school, then they're going to be harmed.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that the same thing that would happen if you weren't compliant to the rules? You're going to be punished to keep you in that state.
Yeah.
So if you look back at our reality, everything, all of our freedoms, like, okay, here, registration of your car, for example, it's a tax. It's a license plate that goes on the back of your car. In Alberta, they don't even give you new stickers now, so you can't even tell whether it's been paid or not from the outside. And I pay $93 a year for that just to get a piece of paper that forces me to verify that my address is right so they can find me. Also, I can drive my car on the road. What is going on there? A tax is the same thing. It's like a bunch of money that's taken off before you even
Mm-hmm.
get it. Have you ever, the government doesn't wait for you to pay the tax at the end. They take it off before anything else. And CPP or pension plan or whatever, and unemployment insurance and all this kind of stuff, they're taken off immediately. But there's no guarantee you'll even get it because the rules are different for everyone. It's like, oh, if you got fired, you don't get it, or if you lay yourself off or walk away. There's all these rules that kind of make the world so confusing. So you end up trying to meet all these expectations and all these rules, and you fail every time, and you're just beat into the ground without anybody using a stick on you.
Yeah, and you're like at that point not even listening to your internal guidance system because you want to follow the
And
rules.
does it keep you safe? How many times have you went up to a stop sign and there's cars coming and you're stopping, you stop and you just go immediately because that's the way traffic flow is and all this kind of stuff. And then the cop comes up behind you and says you didn't stop for 3 seconds. Who's that keeping safe? No, that's just a number that's been put
Quota.
on it. I stopped. I didn't get hit by the other cars. What's the thing that says that I need $100 ticket or whatever? No. So if we keep looking underneath, you go to the grocery store and you bump into somebody or whatever, it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I bumped into you or whatever. If you go into the grocery store and you don't pay on the way out, then that's you're breaking the law and you're hurting another person or whatever. But in a
Yeah.
world where everybody needs to eat, and the requirement is you have a job so that you can have money, and then the quality of food you can eat is based on the value that you got from money. Look at
Yes.
how fucked this is. This is nothing to do with a bunch of spiritual beings cavorting and having fun. It's a structure that's been programmed that forces you into how to lead your whole entire life. And that's what preschool is.
Yes.
Comply, be quiet, don't do that. I'm going to make you sit in the corner because you're a bad boy. I
Socialize with these kids.
do you have any from your youth age where they're little traumas that kind of cowed you? It's like dunce cap scares the hell out of me. I don't know why. I must have had to wear it at some point because I was a bad little boy. But
Yeah, of course.
you want to know a funny one? A friend of mine said that, and I had this happen to my son, that their child was traumatized by a teacher speaking about a death in her family. Why the frick should a grade 3 or whatever level of teacher have to speak in a classroom full of children about their trauma of their parent dying? How many kids pick that up now and now carry it and have to have psychological counseling because that teacher was just too sherry in her bullshit? She should have went and seen a psychologist. How many traumas do you pick up along the way because
Oh
people
my
want to
God, so
share?
many.
And children are sponges. That
Yes.
should be a legal, prosecutable psychological trauma, like illegal for a teacher to speak like that. Teach about the curriculum. Teach about all the other stuff. You don't need to be telling them about your bad day. Go
Personal
touch it
life,
in the
yeah.
teacher's conference room and all this kind of stuff. And then we have teachers that can't even meet the system. So they're traumatizing kids, just forcing rules of getting things done and when it needs to be done. And you're bad if you don't do it. And kids are traumatized. My son got taken off the bus because somebody on the bus was sick with COVID. And they didn't even tell the teacher that he was off because he was quarantined. And then he's bad afterwards because he didn't do all the work. Well, wouldn't you think a teacher could be understanding and say, hey, I hear you're quarantined. How can I help you? And I'll do my best
Yeah.
to ease your assignments.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all the blind leading the blind. Um, um, I was gonna a side note, funny story. I don't know what to call you, so I've just been calling you my sex therapist.
Cool. I love that.
And I was telling my friends yesterday, I was like, yo, I got like, because I was telling them a story, and I was like, yeah, like I've been encouraged by my sex therapist to explore my sexuality and stuff. And they're like, how'd you find him? And I was like, Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But isn't that what a sex therapist is somebody that talks freely and openly about desires and what's needed and what your traps are, and then we talk about what happened leading up to it, and it's like, why did you make that choice? Why did you do this? Why did you feel bad about that? And there was no evidence that was real, but that was your story that came from the
Yeah.
past. And then it's the repression of your parents, repression of your religion. We just nudge up to it and say, okay, well, why are you making that choice?
Yeah. I mean, and then, and like, it's like having that important remembrance of like that, that it stems from the root chakra and the sexuality and the rejection that you felt with, your sexuality.
And getting into places where you can dance with it and you're not coming from your subconscious.
Right. You're not coming from your woundedness.
Well, how
Like,
many times do you come back and say, this isn't the way I wanted to work out and all this kind of stuff? And it was like you had a pre-existing expectation of how it was going to be based on a whole bunch of stuff that happened in the past. And then we went down and it's like, is that the way you wanted it anyways? And it's like, no. So now all of a sudden you're like, new awareness. Okay. So how am I going into this? Like, oh, I'm going to own him or he's going to own me and he's got to meet me in all my whatever. And orgasms are key or else we're not connecting or whatever. It's like all these programmings that go in our head and we're not even consciously aware that we're enabling them.
yeah, like I was thinking about the last sexual encounter I had and like how much, I was just showing up as myself. Like I didn't have anything to prove because before that I was 8 months celibate. And like, I'm not here to flex my skills or like try to be good at sex or anything like that. I just show up as myself and am in the present moment. But even like having that last sexual encounter with him, like he was still putting on that performance. Like I saw it, and like I was just kind of confused because I'm like, I appreciate you, like, wanting to I guess, or help me orgasm or whatever, service me. But it's like, I don't need the performance version of you. Like, I just want to be in the moment, like, of what feels good.
And how did it feel in your body when he tried to do that?
I was just like, I didn't feel anything. Like, I was just
Kind
like,
of like a lie, right? That was
yeah, like
propagated in the body.
I didn't feel anything. Like, I'm like, cool. Like, that's not what I'm here for. Like I'm not, this isn't like a performance, like tryout session.
But how much of sexuality is that, right? It's like, okay, if I felt pleasure, this is a guy I want to continue. And if I gave him pleasure, then we're compatible. And all this kind of stuff are all stories that are underneath based on a whole bunch of experiences that didn't work out or stories behind it, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I think a lot of, I don't know for, I can't speak for men, but I do think that there is a self-worth attached to, oh, did I make her orgasm, or was I good enough for her? Like,
That's programmed though.
exactly.
So some of the sexuality I'm working with in my life, it's like having discussions about, okay, are you doing this for me, or are you doing this for yourself? And
Yeah.
it changes everything when it's for
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
It's like I had a discussion with the person I'm sharing sexuality with the other day, and it was just like, what's going on? And we got kind of deeper, and it was like, okay, there's a trust thing because we hurt each other in the past or whatever. So it's like trying to heal that trust. And I'm like, is it you trusting me or me trusting you? Because,
Or them trusting themselves.
well, there exactly. And then go down to that point, and it's like, are you asking? Are you just sitting on this hurdle of trying to please or regain that, but you haven't even set terms of how you'd regain that? So
Yeah.
everybody's fouled up.
Yeah. But I was just like thinking about that, and it's happened before in the past too with the previous relationship. Like, it was just a performance, and like, I don't want a performance. Like,
Well, after maybe 3 times of the performance, you're like, this was really hollow. Why was I doing this in the first place? And what did I prove to myself? Yes, I can be sexual with a person, but if it's hollow and we're not calling each other out on what feels off,
yeah.
there's no depth. And you want depth. Your body wants depth. It wants to be
Right.
seen.
And I attempted to do the agreement thing, and just wasn't right time or whatever. The alignment wasn't there, like, or maybe my message wasn't coming through.
Oh, you shoot a possibility that hasn't existed ever before, and it feels so scary deep, but it also might attach other relationships and put those variables into the mix,
Yeah.
which just needs some time. And really, until you've negotiated, like saying it and here's how it kind of works, and then putting it on paper are two different things.
Yes, I
Because
agree.
I'm scared of attachment, or I want to have another partner in my life because I don't know how to let them go right now. Is that something that we can have in there? uh, I want to have that depth, but maybe I don't want you to live with me, or whatever. Well, how does that fit if you don't live with me and we're not having that sharing or whatever? Because that container is really massive. But if you only meet once a week and it's a 3-month relationship or whatever, are you really getting the depth that you need?
No, that's like 12 times.
Exactly. But when you're in the crucible of each other's container and your sexuality is deep and you have all night to have sex so that you don't have to worry about rushing home or whatever, and having that depth, and then having that fight and screaming match and the discussion
Yeah.
afterwards and the makeup sex and all that stuff is all integral, putting
It's
yourself in that
beautiful.
forced crucible container.
Yeah, and it's like you're not hiding
Mhm.
anything.
And it's for them as much as you, right? It's
Yeah.
When you put yourself, I consider it putting yourself in a crucible container, you're burning off the chaff by making a commitment that doesn't have attachments. And after the 3 months, you can be free, which doesn't exist anywhere. You're going to have a discussion at the end of that 3 months and say, holy cow, this was amazing. And it made me a new person, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
seeing we want completely different directions because we talked about it and it's beautiful and we're still friends, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
continuing on.
Mm-hmm.
And what's 3 months? Even if you paused other relationships or whatever, you're going to get a really crystal clear idea
Yeah.
how attached they are. If you say, hey, I'm going to go spend some time with this girl, I hope you're okay with that. All the jealousy is going to come up, all this other stuff. Can you imagine the guy, how scary that would be if there's a bunch of really clingy women in his life?
Yeah.
But now he's choosing and he's getting a perspective. It doesn't mean anything. I'm just choosing this conscious container thing so I can explore myself.
Yeah.
And I'll have one with you afterwards if this all, we'll see where everything goes. And I'm gonna bet you, because you're in your spiritual development phase, more than likely you'll choose to continue on separate afterwards, not because, but because you've really understood what you wanted. And you're not gonna, he's gonna really understood what he wants as well. And it's going to be something really special if it's like, holy fuck, this is the person I want to be with for the rest of my life. But more than likely, it's the first couple times that you're going to do it is really about doing your deep work and dealing with the trauma. And there's no
Mm-hmm.
guarantee that person's going to go through their trauma at the same rate as you.
Yes.
And so you may say, oh, it's just not the right time right now. But in 5 years, once that person's done the work, holy fuck, you're going to know this person. And that's why you don't throw them away and say, fuck you, I don't want any part of your life. No, we spent 3 months of really conscious sexuality. That's going to be a best friend you're going to have in your life because you've been deeply soul connected with that
Mm-hmm.
person. There's nothing bad about doing this other than getting the contrast to see what we need, doing the healing at the time. I think it should be a thing that everybody chooses in their college years, in their early years where they're forming what they want and what they desire
Yeah.
to keep everybody safe. Go ahead.
I think overall, like especially in my 20s, like I wanted a relationship so bad, but I'm so grateful that I was never in a long-term relationship where I could explore my darkness and my mistakes, quote
Mhm.
unquote, and like do
So,
all that I needed to do and be single.
mhm. So I don't want you to take this in the negative form of the term, but how much did Anya prostitute herself? And I'm not talking about the sexuality, but pervert herself to try and fit in a relationship container so some guy would choose her
Oh my God, yes.
and you
Yes.
weren't yourself.
No.
Because there was a whole bunch of rules and said, oh, you got to be slim and fit and have big breasts and all these kind of things and all these things. So you're trying to, I don't know, wear the padded bra and look like more, but then you're afraid when you're having sex because now you're going to see all the real stuff,
Mm-hmm.
knowing some of your traumas. You weren't really yourself at all.
No.
And would you have wanted a guy from that yourself at all? And how many people ended up in marriage through that same thing? Because that's the natural progression. I got the guy and he's interested in me, and then it falls apart 3 months or 3 years later.
Yeah, because the mask has to wear down
The
at some
mask will come
point.
off and then you'll be in bed and it's like, this is grouchy Joe or grouchy Anya, and nobody knows into because you've never really intimate with that person. You never took the whole mask off because you
Yeah.
never thought you were worthy.
Yeah, or there just wasn't that emotional safety or whatever.
Mhm.
But like, I look at my friends who like had boyfriends all throughout their 20s or college years, but now find themselves single in their 30s and like
Having to do their work
having to
finally.
do the work and like, not really knowing their identity. And
Mhm.
like, I'm just like, I'm so grateful for how everything had
And they're
happened.
trapped up in a whole bunch of traumas and wounds and drugs and alcohol and not good
Whatever.
jobs and self-worth
Yeah.
issues. It just puts layers and layers and layers of crap on you
Yeah.
because every time you have a fight and that other person doesn't work out and you're not good enough, it just reaffirms this story that created the
Yes.
thing in the first place.
Yeah, and like, I'm doing all of the work. Like, I'm just so happy to be who I am. And like, okay,
Mhm.
if this thing doesn't work out, the human in me will feel sad for a little. Okay, it's part of the process, but then I know how to get back into the flow.
Mhm.
And then I know how to get back into loving Anya.
And go back to that busyness thing. What is a relationship for your time as well?
Hmm.
So business isn't a job. Now, if you get into a relationship and you're trying to please that person and
Yeah.
satisfy them and meet all their expectations, is that a whole nother level of busyness again?
Yeah, it's a fucking,
That's not
it's
about truth. How
exhausting.
am I going to get sex tonight? I'm going to dress sexy and do my hair. And the guy's like, oh, I just want to drink a couple beers and lay in front of the TV or whatever, because there was no connection. And you're not happy about yourself and you're trying to prostitute yourself and you don't feel good about yourself. Well, how's he going to be drawn to that? Because you're
Right.
instead the rawness and it's like, oh, I'm really insecure about myself in this way. What do you see? Or whatever could be a completely different exploration rather than trying to put on airs.
Yeah.
So look at how much crazy shit, because I think that for myself, how much crazy shit and hoops and things that I had to jump over that I avoided by not having relationships up until now.
Yeah, and it's like it's so funny because it's like so that what we want so badly,
Mhm.
but it's like
So where is there loss inside of you because of that? Because you didn't have them?
in an older version of Anya there would have been a perceived loss, but in
Mhm.
this current version, no.
So send it some gratitude. Send all
Oh yeah.
those things that you stuck on your forehead to say, don't have sex with me, don't be a partner with me because I'm broken or whatever the thing was a
Yeah.
gift. And that's in this last 10 months of my conscious sexual celibacy and other things. That's what I found is like sex or masturbating just to say you had it. And I caught myself today in in viewing pornography or like I had this story going on my head. That's the only way I get sexuality right now because of COVID and you're not dating and people aren't out there and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, no, I don't want to ever have that be a limit. But that's where a lot of men's sexuality comes is in porn because
Yeah.
but the women need an emotional connection. So porn doesn't respond in the same way. So we're just ending up in a physical response as men. And then women don't like that because men are emotionally unavailable at that point when they can just give themselves pleasure whenever they want and aren't
Yeah.
emotionally engaged to feel the depth.
Yeah.
So is anything about dating about feeling the depth, or is it just making yourself safe enough with that person by asking them a whole bunch of questions in their grandma and background and stuff like that so that you can eventually open and make a choice so you don't
Yeah.
hurt your heart or go deep with that person.
Yeah, like
Like
at
you
this point
go ahead.
with all of the work done, it's like you can't hurt my heart. Like I've been through that cycle before, but it's like I have enough love for myself.
That was attachment. That was searching for love outside yourself. And it's like, if
Yes.
that person is going to be that way, I wouldn't want to be with them in the first place.
Yeah.
So now you're choosing, okay?
Yeah.
I'm choosing this for me. And why not re-engage? But now re-engage. How much of a waste of time is it to have 5 dates talking about your mother and your aunt and where you like to go and what your favorite food is and all that kind of stuff? That is not depth. That is the most shallow bullshit that I could possibly imagine in a lot of cases.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I mean, I think it's good to like, talk about your parental dynamics or whatever, to be like to learn about, why you are the way you are, but like
If you're really awakening, those are just traumas and wounds that you're becoming aware of. So maybe you can support that person. But
mhm.
really, does it matter in the long term? Eventually, you wouldn't even identify as that, and you wouldn't even speak about it.
Yeah.
So, so it's all about the depth, the connection, to see if they're comfortable there, can speak about what's underneath. It creates this whole new level and dynamic of why you're dating. or becoming relating.
Yeah.
It's the connection, the physicality, the depth, the vulnerability that's really the turn on, the openness, isn't it?
Yeah.
That drives our
Yeah.
sex centers.
Trust.
Trust, absolutely. And how are you
Like,
going to get that without saying how you want to feel trust and what's needed? And I can't trust you right in this moment because something feels off, or we'll never get to those levels of discussion.
but
And
it's like, how many times do we continue going with this person even though we don't trust them, you know?
because that's all we're worthy of a lot of times.
Yeah.
And how foobarred is that?
Hmm.
How fucked up is that? You're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, well, I'm just hanging on to whatever. How many people just want to fit the value of having a relationship and be able to in that dynamic of going out with couples and all this kind of stuff, and they're prostituting themselves and saying, okay, this is okay and this isn't, this is acceptable or whatever, or trying to change a guy or trying to change a girl. I think it's less from a guy's side, but girls have an image. Guys just want to be physical and be intimate in that way because they have so lack of touch right now. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
our first need. And I think women really need to be aware of that and not judge it and say, oh, you want a sex or whatever. Well, that just fucks both of you. It's like, how many dick pics do you get and all this kind of stuff of men that are trying to lead with their sexuality, and it completely disgusts you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to state it here for a moment. That is a lot created by women themselves, because touch and intimacy and that push away happens at puberty for a lot of boys, and they don't know what the hell's going on. All they know is they're touch starved. They can't hug people. They can't really feel intimate
Mm-hmm.
unless it's sexuality. And then sexuality has all this dirtiness, and you're going to get an STD, and girls aren't even taught how to approach a guy. It's like chase me, and then
Yeah.
you chase, and then all of a sudden when they catch you, it's like, okay, well, now it's sexuality time or whatever. And then it's believed, because nobody's ever trained them properly, that that's intercourse right away, or and that can be a rape when, and then if you're not sure in your energy of what you want or whatever, all of a sudden something really innocent could be a rape. And
Mm-hmm.
I would really, really, really love for women to own their part in this, because it's not women's fault. It's been engineered into them of how they see and all this kind of stuff. But if a woman could really sit and not judge a man and say, okay, he's too sexual, he wants this or whatever, and see that he's in a lot of ways hurt and wounded. There's a little boy underneath that
Mm.
doesn't know touch, doesn't know how to safe way to get it. And to have a woman to say, okay, I feel your desire and all this kind of stuff, but you need to touch my heart. Let's have a talk. Don't send me away and say, oh, you're too sexual, or just shame and blame.
Yeah.
Let's have a talk. Make an invitation. I'm interested in the possibility of that, but let's find out what's in between first and have a deep discussion. And this is what my body wants, and it wants to be aroused, and it wants to feel good. It doesn't want you just friction based. And women could be the best teacher, and it's only in the instant of them making the invitation. Because didn't I tell you that a whole bunch of times? You need to make an invitation that invites him in at a different level. If you make
Mm-hmm.
I just want to be taken, and I'm a girl, but I'm trying to be safe and all this kind of stuff. Where's the energy of him wanting to fulfill you, to worship you, to uh, be there for you?
Yeah.
Because that energy underneath, it's just like, oh, I don't want to feel too slutty right away, and I don't want it, but I want sex, and that's all stuff that's underneath. And men, I will tell you, from my perspective, and most men, they just want to serve a woman. They want to be able to worship a woman, but they've never been taught how.
Yeah.
And you're not going to learn that from another man. You're going to learn that from a woman.
Yeah. Yeah. Like being in the field.
So a
Um,
woman that, it's there. I'll keep going. I'm
no,
interested.
I was just gonna say, like, the thought comes up of, like, you know, the, oh, you shouldn't sleep with a man too soon because he's not gonna value you the same way, or the chase or the thrill will be gone because he's a hunter.
You gave all your power away in that statement.
Yeah. But like
Where is
that,
your choice? Where was your sexuality? Where was your taking sexuality? It's like, oh, well, the guy's got to meet me in this way for me to feel validated about myself.
like 5 day requirement or a 3 month
Fuck
wait.
that. That's a wound response. That's a victim. Were you in your power? Am I owning the fact that I just had sexuality with this man and I chose it? And that felt good. And I am not a slut. And I'm not going to tell all my friends about it so that I can feed this thing of how I might be a slut inside or whatever. No, fuck. I fucked a guy last night. That was fucking amazing. I felt like a woman and I felt powerful. Do you think any girl's going to come up and want to titter at you about, but if you come in halfway and it's like, I kind of feel a little slutty and you did that to yourself.
Yeah.
How much of the feminine dynamic is doing stuff like that over and over and over again because you're ashamed or your religion says that that was sex out of marriage or whatever, and we're trying to do this stuff. Own it. What I see with Anya, it's own it. It's like, I'm making an invitation and I want to see how he reacts afterwards.
Choice.
And
Yes.
it's not like, oh, well, he's not interested in me, so I wasted my sex and he entered my temple and all this kind of stuff. It's like, fuck, I needed sexuality. And I'll tell you right now, men are going to be so direct about that. And if you stand in your power and you say, okay, I know you want sexuality. It's from your wound, maybe. Can we talk about that? I want sexuality too, but I don't want to see a little boy living in lack, all worried about how he's going to meet me. I'm going to sit here and this is what I want to see. Can you approach me now knowing that this is the entry price to be paid? And it's not a price. It's like, I got to meet you at worshiping your body, not as a timid little cowed little boy that is just going to feel awful as I'm going. But if it's no, it's I'm worshiping you. I'm touching your body and I'm forcefully taking each step, looking in your eyes, asking permission, starting to feel the energy. Guess what? How many women, this is one I want to really ask, how many women are attracted to a guy, but to their face, they'll look straight in their eyes and say, I'm not interested? What is that doing to the feminine masculine dynamic in that moment?
I think it's kind of just being dishonest and warping it. But I think what it is, like I have a perfect example is you could be attracted to someone, but they're still operating from their woundedness, which gets in the way.
And that's the whole thing. The woman is saying no, even though she's attracted, she's saying no because he has a wound. He's coming from that boy. And she wants to be approached by a man. How's he ever going to learn to be a man without you standing up and saying, well, I'm a little bit attracted, but you feel off to me. Why? Go walk back over there, spend 10 minutes and collect yourself and be really grounded and come back.
Yeah.
And then, oh, there's not a lie. All of a sudden it's like, ooh, that feels better.
Right.
Okay, I'd like to get to know you now.
Yeah.
But if you came from your wound and lack and I'm going to be rejected and this is going to hurt, I'm going to guarantee 80 or 90% of the men are coming from that and it feels awful to you. Where is your part in that moment to do that?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because there's no course. There's no any other thing. You have the ability in that moment to say, oh, I'm just wounded. All I attract is wounded men again. And this is crap. And that sex would be awful. Well, stand there and be a goddess.
Exactly.
Like, come back and reapproach like you want me. Don't come in soft and use your pickup lines and all that, because that's going to give you an instant no, because that's protecting me and making me safe. Come back. And then it's like, okay, I'm very different and whatever. And it's like, maybe you'll fall back in this old pattern while you're talking a little bit, but look at the change you standing in your power all of a sudden made. And yeah, maybe it gets to sexuality, maybe it doesn't, but be really talking about it and explain why. It's like, oh, well, you're a little too forceful. I found your lack coming out or whatever.
Or you're too insecure, whatever.
Or insecure. And I'd like, maybe we'll talk again, just here's some feedback. Go look at that. And if you could spend a week or whatever and then phone you back in a week and it's like, oh, I really would love to spend some time with you. I want to take you out for a nice dinner, but not because you're going to owe me or whatever. I just want to get to know you a little bit. What's your desire? What's your depth? And now you're feeling really met and really excited, but it was all your choice and how you showed up in the first place. If you're a meek little, oh shit, is this another one of those guys and constantly worried about it? That's all you're going to get.
Yeah.
So it's that simple. Same with guys. Like guys, we got to step up and stand in our groundness and not stand in our wound. And is this not going to work out? Am I going to have to go masturbate myself at home or whatever tonight because I can't get sexuality in my world? No, it's just like ground and be a man and don't be in your feminine. Oh, I'm a girly friend and let's talk and I can sit at your table and we're acting like girlfriends. Well, you're never going to get laid acting like a girlfriend because you're too far in your feminine and then you're in the friend zone and all this kind of stuff. Come in and say, hey, how are you? Get your deep voice on and look really close in the eyes and all this kind of stuff. And you want to talk some more? I want to go deep. I want to have a really deep conversation and lead with your own vulnerability. It's like, hey, I'm feeling a little insecure here, but I'm doing my best. Can you frame for me when I feel off or point me in the right direction? Because I'm willing to learn right here and right now. And fuck, that's a guy that's going to show up every time and he's going to take feedback and it's going to give you permission.
Yeah.
So how's your time looking?
Time to
shut down. Perfect.
This was great though. This was perfect.
It's if we can get underneath of the fact that we're walking around blind, using a bunch of rules that don't work, and we just keep banging into the walls, and then eventually our story just makes it impossible. Look at how we unwound a relationship that didn't work out and unwound the fact that people are scared and they're trying to protect themselves and they're lying with their energy. And how do you expect a man to approach if he doesn't know what a yes is in your body and a no is and what's fear versus whatever? You're going to get so much better showing up. And the man's going to get so much better showing up. So it's a shared possibility. Nobody's to blame. Nobody's fucked up. Nobody's doing it wrong or whatever. Just we're blind.
Yeah.
And
hence the title.
Walking around blind is the process. The only way to get out of walking around blind is a lot of deep communication and sharing and vulnerability. And then that person's going to come closer. And I think we tear the sheets down because now the veils of fakeness isn't there anymore. And then, I'm horny as hell and I need some sex in my life. And how does it feel for you? And yeah, I'm horny as hell too, but I don't know how to get it safely. Then it's like, okay, we got a common ground. This is something that we want. How can I help you feel safe to go there? What's the things? What's the triggers that are working against it and scare me? And are you a rapist? Are you a weirdo or whatever? Those are all questions that are in there. And then you be open about it. And would you really invite that into your life if you've done your work of having more rapes and more weirdness happening in your world? Now all of a sudden you can trust just because you can trust yourself. And if the energy is feeling right in your heart and you're following it, you're following. And even if something bad happened out of it, you learned because that thing in your heart that said it was right is showing you a flaw or a hole in your shadow. So boom, magic. So we're consciously negotiating through our life to get what we want. And if we're failing, it means we're learning and you're on your way to get it.
Yes.
Magic. So beautiful. Well, I'm wishing you all the success in finding abundance of home and money and all the things that you want in your world.
Thank you. Likewise.
Letting the energy show up because you're putting it out there and giving. Absolutely. And it's ready to come back to you. So
I'll report back.
Okay. We'll see where we stand maybe next week. We'll check in for Monday. And
Monday's good.
Okay. Oh, you're going to have your place by then or?
Well, I'll be here, but I'll be alone.
Okay. Cool. Awesome sauce. Glad you shared your full light and shined your brilliance upon this exchange. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, loving everybody. Wishing you a very good day. I guess we must have been pretty deep. I don't see any comments. There's a love from April Corcoran Caps. So
Cool.
thank you all. Have a good day. Have fun today.
Bye.